Hello and welcome. Make yourself comfortable. Today I'm going to be talking about books. And the reason I say make yourself comfortable is because these videos typically take me a while. So just sit back, relax, and hopefully you'll get some great book recommendations. If you didn't see my mid-year book video, be sure to check that one out as well, because I decided that I'm not going to revisit the books I spoke about in that video because there's just so many to get through that it would take me too long. And I know we're all busy and have other things that we need and want to be doing. So I'm going to be speaking about books from the second half of 2021, and I'm only going to talk about books that I rated 3 stars or higher. Granted, there weren't that many books that I rated 2 stars or less, but I'm just going to stick with the 3 stars and up because even that, there's quite a bit. And when I say rated, I rate them on Goodreads, which is the website that I use to not only keep track of the books I have read, but to keep track of books I want to read. And every year they do a challenge, a yearly challenge. Basically, you set a goal for yourself of how many books you want to read in a year. And every year I've increased that goal and met that new goal. For 2021, I set a goal of 33 books, which was more books than I ever read in a year, and was a pretty lofty goal for me. I know for some people that might seem like nothing, but for me, it was quite a number to reach. And I'm happy to say that I did reach that number. I technically read 34 if you were to count repeated books, but ultimately new books I read 33 because the repeat was Zoe Suggs' book, The Magpie Society, and I reread it because I knew that the second one was going to be coming out, and I didn't really remember the story that well, so I wanted to refresh myself, but I haven't yet read the new one. That'll be in 2022's books. But yeah, so 33 books if you don't count that one. Granted, some were audiobooks, but I still count those because they're books. But enough of an intro, let's get into it. Starting with the 3-star books. And this isn't necessarily the order that I read them, but I'm going by 3-star, 4-star, then 5-star. So the first 3-star book is Unfollow Me by Charlotte Duckworth. Let me check my little notes here that I keep throughout the year to know what I thought about it. I don't remember how I heard about this book. It may have been recommended by Goodreads, but it was somewhat suspenseful and kept my interest. Each chapter alternates from a different person's perspective. And it did have some prizes, but I felt the ending was a little anticlimactic for some reason. It's not that it left me wanting more, I just didn't find the ending all that exciting, I guess. But let me read a description of it. You can't stop watching her. Violet Young is a hugely popular journalist turned mummy vlogger with 3 young children, a successful husband, and 1 million subscribers on YouTube who tune in daily to watch her everyday life unfold. Until the day she's no longer there. But one day she disappears from the online world, her entire social media presence deleted overnight, with no explanation. Has she simply decided that bearing her life to all online is no longer a good idea, or has something more sinister happened to her? Next is Tales of the Silent, a Dr. Amelia Davis novel by Judy Broadman. And I found this to be a fun romance. It's set in France. It takes us back in time, which is a theme with Judy's novels, kind of jumping between time, and I enjoyed it. A Deep Red Rose, the symbol of beauty, passion, desire, and love, is perfect. Well, almost perfect, as Dr. Amelia Davis, an archaeologist and best-selling novelist, is about to find out. She arrives at a chateau in France under orders from her agent to write because for the last 8 months since leaving the wedding chapel alone, she hasn't written a single solitary worthwhile word. But here in the small French village of Chinon, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, as Chinon. Sorry for the butchering. Among the misty green meadows and the grape-filled vines, she hopes to find the inspiration she needs. It's a romance, and if you like romances or France or books taking place in France, I think you'd like it. Next is The Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. A murder on the high seas, a detective duo, a demon who may or may not exist. It's 1634 and Samuel Pepys, the world's greatest detective, is being transported to Amsterdam to be executed for a crime he may or may not have committed. Traveling with him is his loyal bodyguard Aaron Taze, who is determined to prove his friend innocent. But no sooner are they out to sea than devilry begins to blight the voyage. So I loved 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is also by this author. But this was very different. It's not like anything else I've read. I don't even know what to classify it as or how to describe it exactly. It was sort of a mystery. It had a lot of characters, and I felt a bit lost at times. Sometimes I wasn't even sure I wanted to finish it, but then other times I couldn't stop reading. I did end up enjoying it, but it's not a favorite by any means. Next is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, and I read this for the Samantha March Book Club. This is a non-fiction true crime book about the Golden State Killer. I listened to it on audiobook, and I found it interesting but also difficult to listen to at times, knowing it really happened. The amount of time and energy the author put into trying to find the killer was unbelievable. I did find it hard to follow at times as well and found myself getting confused. It could be because the book wasn't fully finished since the author died, so parts were pieced together from her notes. It could also just be the fact that it was an audiobook and I may have lost focus at times. A masterful true crime account of the Golden State Killer, the elusive serial rapist turned murderer who terrorized California for over a decade. From Michelle McNamara, the gifted journalist who died tragically while investigating the case. For more than 10 years, a mysterious and violent predator committed 50 sexual assaults in Northern California before moving south, where he perpetrated 10 sadistic murders. Then he disappeared, eluding capture by multiple police forces and some of the best detectives in the area. Next is The Winds Are Not by S.J. Bennett. This book was interesting because sometimes I found myself very engaged with it and other times I couldn't really focus on it. I'm not sure if it had to do with the writing or just what I had going on at the time. It involves the Queen of England and she enjoys playing detective. The first book in a highly original and delightfully clever crime series in which Queen Elizabeth II secretly solves crimes while carrying out her royal duties. It is the early spring of 2016, and Queen Elizabeth is at Windsor Castle in advance of her 90th birthday celebrations. But the preparations are interrupted when a guest is found dead in one of the castle bedrooms. The scene suggests the young Russian pianist strangled himself. But a badly tied knot leads MI5 to suspect foul play was involved. The Queen leaves the investigation to the professionals until their suspicions point them in the wrong direction. And the final 3-star book was A Princess for Christmas by Jenny Holiday. This one I also listened to on audiobook, and overall I enjoyed it. It reminded me of a Hallmark movie, except parts of it were much more risque than a Hallmark movie, and those moments would surprise me. They, to me, felt a little bit awkward and cringy, though that could have just been me. I wanted to read some other Christmas books, but they weren't available, so this is the one that I read for this year. A modern fairy tale just in time for Christmas, about a tough New Yorker from the other side of the tracks who falls for a princess from the other side of the world. Leo Ricci's already handling all he can, between taking care of his little sister Gabby, driving a cab, and being the super of his apartment building in the Bronx. But when Gabby spots a princess in a gown outside of the UN trying to hail a cab, she begs her brother to stop and help. Before he knows it, he's got a real-life damsel in distress in the backseat of his car. Princess Marie of Aldovia shouldn't be hailing a cab or even be out and about. But after her mother's death, her father has plunged into a devastating depression, and the fate of her small alpine country has fallen on Marie's shoulders. Now moving on to the 4-star books. The first being Under the Southern Sky by Christy Woodson Harvey, another one that I read for the Samantha March Book Club. Recently separated Amelia Saxton, a dedicated journalist, never expected that uncovering the biggest story of her career would become deeply personal. But when she discovers that a cluster of embryos belonging to her childhood friend Parker and his late wife Greer have been deemed abandoned, she's put in the unbelievable position of telling Parker, and dredging up old wounds in the process. Parker has been unable to move forward since the loss of his beloved wife 3 years ago. He has all but forgotten about the frozen embryos, but once Amelia reveals her discovery, he knows that if he ever wants to get a part of Greer back, he'll need to accept his fate as a single father and find a surrogate. Each dealing with their own private griefs, Parker and Amelia slowly begin to find solace in one another as they navigate an uncertain future against the backdrop of the pristine waters of their childhood home, Cape Carolina. Upon initially hearing about this when it came up for the book club, I wasn't sure what to think or if I would like it. I liked it way more than I thought I would. It's a love story, but also gets into the fact of abandoned embryos and a man's perspective when it comes to IVF versus a woman's perspective. If you like love stories and books about relationships, then I think you would like it. Next is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. Didn't say much about this one other than I enjoyed it. It definitely kept my interest, but I was also able to predict some of the things that happened. I wouldn't say it's mystery necessarily, but more suspense. Meet Jane. Newly arrived to Birmingham, Alabama, Jane is a broke dog walker in Thornfield Estates, a gated community full of McMansions, shiny SUVs, and bored housewives. The kind of place where no one will notice if Jane lifts the discarded tchotchkes and jewelry off the side tables of her well-heeled clients. Where no one will think to ask if Jane is her real name. But her luck changes when she meets Eddie Rochester. Recently widowed Eddie is Thornfield Estate's most mysterious resident. His wife Bee drowned in a boating accident with her best friend, their bodies lost to the deep. Jane can't help but see an opportunity in Eddie. Not only is he rich, brooding, and handsome, he could also offer her the kind of protection she's always yearned for. Yet, as Jane and Eddie fall for each other, Jane is increasingly haunted by the legend of Bee, an ambitious beauty with rags to riches origin story who launched a wildly successful Southern lifestyle brand. How can she, plain Jane, ever measure up? The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Between life and death, there is a library. And within that library, the shelves go on forever. Every book provides a chance to try another life you could have lived, to see how things would be if you had made other choices. Would you have done anything different if you had the chance to undo your regrets? A dazzling novel about the choices that go into a life well lived. This book is hard to explain, but I enjoyed it. It gives a perspective of what happens when you die or you are in between life and death. It also explores multiple universes and that there are infinite versions of us and infinite possible lives to live. I liked the way it ended and the message it gave. I don't want to tell you too much and spoil it, and I know my description may seem strange and confusing, but it is a good book and I would recommend it to you. Then next I read The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, which was a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, but I didn't realize till I read it that it was written many years after The Handmaid's Tale. At first I thought it was a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, and while it was in the same world, it was more of a standalone than a sequel. I enjoyed it, but found it hard to follow which characters were which until about halfway through the book. If you enjoy dystopian novels or read The Handmaid's Tale and enjoyed it, I think you would like this one. And I am psyched to watch the TV show, but haven't got around to it yet. But hopefully I will get it in my rotation in 2022. If you haven't read Handmaid's Tale, don't listen to this description. When the van door slammed on Offred's future at the end of The Handmaid's Tale, readers had no way of telling what lay ahead for her: freedom, prison, or death. With the Testaments, the wait is over. Margaret Atwood's sequel picks up the story more than 15 years after Offred stepped into the unknown, with the explosive testaments of 3 female narrators from Gilead. In this brilliant sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, acclaimed author Margaret Atwood answers questions that have tantalized readers for decades. Dear readers, everything you've ever asked me about Gilead and its inner workings is the inspiration for the book. Well, almost everything. So maybe I didn't understand it completely. It didn't seem like a sequel to me with the same characters, but maybe it's like future of Gilead and what happens later. I did kind of question how Offred fit in, and I had an inkling about it, but maybe I didn't quite pick up on everything the way I should have. I don't know. Maybe the show will make it clearer for me. We will see. Next is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. No visitors, no nights spent away from the apartment, no disturbing the other residents, all of whom are rich, famous, or both. These are the only rules for Jules Larson's new job as an apartment sitter at the Bartholomew, one of Manhattan's most high-profile and mysterious buildings. Recently heartbroken, and just plain broke, Jules is taken in by the splendor of her surroundings and accepts the terms, ready to leave her past life behind. As she gets to know the residents and staff of the Bartholomew, Jules finds herself drawn to fellow apartment sitter Ingrid, who comfortingly, disturbingly reminds her of the sister she lost 8 years ago. When Ingrid confides that the Bartholomew is not what it seems, and the dark history hidden beneath its gleaming facade is starting to frighten her, Jules brushes it off as a harmless ghost story, until the next day, when Ingrid disappears. I found this to be a suspenseful thriller mystery. It takes place in Manhattan and features an old building that's very exclusive, whose residents are also exclusive and elite. It wasn't quite what I thought going into it, and while it kept my interest and I wanted to find out what happened, it took a turn that I was not expecting. Some parts I even found a little disturbing. Overall, pretty good. That's the end of the 4-star books. So now on to the books that I loved the most for the second half of the year and that I rated 5 stars. Starting with The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was a great mystery story that included a rich family, an inheritance, secret passages, and many surprises. It was definitely my kind of mystery, and I look forward to reading the next in the series. A Cinderella story with deadly stakes and thrilling twists. Avery Grams has a plan for a better future. Survive high school, win a scholarship, and get out. But her fortunes change in an instant when billionaire Tobias Hawthorne dies and leaves Avery virtually his entire fortune. The catch? Avery has no idea why, or even who Tobias Hawthorne is. To receive her inheritance, Avery must move into a sprawling, secret passage-filled Hawthorne house where every room bears the old man's touch, and his love of puzzles, riddles, and codes. Unfortunately for Avery, Hawthorne House is also occupied by the family that Tobias Hawthorne just dispossessed. The next 5-star book is a nonfiction book, and it's one that I ended up getting a lot more out of and liking a lot more than I thought I would. And I do have it here. Most of the books I got from the library, but this is one that I did purchase to have, and it's called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler. I know it looks thick and dense and big, but you can take from it what you will. You can take your time reading it. A lot of it is like pictures and diagrams. Overall, I think it's a very worthwhile book, and I did get a lot out of it. And I would recommend it to all women, but especially women in their 20s and 30s. I don't think, or I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I know I didn't understand enough about the way my body works as a woman, and I was just never really educated about it, never learned about it in school, so I kind of tried to self-educate. I found it to be a very understandable, easy to follow book. I learned a lot from it. I have a much better understanding of why certain things happen and their causes when it comes to the body of a woman. So I think if you are in your 20s or 30s and want to know and understand more about how your body works, maybe your cycle, different phases of your cycle, it goes into all kinds of things, but I definitely recommend it. It's probably, if I had to rank top books of the year, it's probably up there as like a top 1 or 2, just because of the information and learning that I got from it. And also I was a little bit shocked that I didn't know all of that before. I feel like I should have, but again, I didn't learn it in school and just didn't learn it throughout life, so I'm learning it now. It's never too late, right? Don't let the title mislead you either. You don't have to be looking into like fertility or even having children for this book to be worthwhile for you. Celebrating 10 years of helping hundreds of thousands of women achieve pregnancy, avoid pregnancy naturally, and gain better control of their health and lives. The 10th anniversary edition, which is what this is 20th anniversary edition actually, so it keeps getting updated as science progresses and everything. Gives new fertility technologies, natural approaches to conception, updated resources for any women unhappy with her current method of birth control, demoralized by her quest to have a baby, or experiencing confusing symptoms in her cycle. This book provides answers to all these questions, plus amazing insights into a woman's body. Weschler thoroughly explains the empowering fertility awareness method, which in only a couple minutes a day allows a woman to enjoy highly effective, scientifically proven birth control without chemicals or devices, maximize her chances of conception, or expedite fertility treatment by identifying impediments to conception. So some of the comments from people, which I don't normally share, but I think this is partly what enticed me to read it, is I really wish they gave this book out instead of pads and tampons in 5th grade. It's ridiculous that I didn't find out how my body works until now, but better late than not at all, as I had said. And then this one says, this ought to be required reading for everyone in possession of a uterus. Anyway, you get the idea. So if that sounds like it'd be something that would help you or be informative to you, I think that you should definitely pick it up, or at least get it from your library. But just to give you an idea, and I know I'm getting a little more in depth in this one, but that's because that's what an impact it had on me. That some of the chapters it covers is rediscover your cycle and your body, being proactive with your health, natural birth control, pregnancy achievement, beyond fertility, and then it breaks it down into smaller sections in each of those things. But I found it very helpful and informative, and will probably go back and refer to things as needed. Next is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I listened to this on audiobook and enjoyed it much more than I initially thought I would. It's a love story, and I don't read that many straight love stories, but this one kept my interest. It goes into how people change and grow and even grow apart. How we can have more than one love in our life, but that it may be different because we're different. If you like love stories or romance, I suggest checking it out. In her 20s, Emma Blair marries her high school sweetheart Jesse. They build a life for themselves far away from the expectations of their parents and the people of their hometown in Massachusetts. They travel the world together, living life to the fullest and seizing every opportunity for adventure. On their first wedding anniversary, Jesse is on a helicopter over the Pacific when it goes missing. Just like that, Jesse is gone forever. Emma quits her job and moves home in an effort to put her life back together. Years later, now in her 30s, Emma runs into an old friend, Sam, and she finds herself falling in love again. When Emma and Sam get engaged, it feels like Emma's second chance at happiness. That is, until Jesse is found. He's alive, and he's been trying all these years to come home to her. Then I also read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I did not realize at the time was by the same exact author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, because they're sometimes you can tell the same author. Their stories and writing are very similar, but this one I had no idea until I clicked that they were the same author. I had heard good things about this book, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I can't pinpoint exactly what it was I loved about this book, but I did. Maybe it was the way it was told or the old Hollywood aspect, but I recommend it. Aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for the job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly on top of the world. Her husband has left her, and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. So hopefully I'll be able to read more by Taylor Jenkins Reid this year, since I do like the author, but her books must be popular because I do find them difficult to get from the library, but I am hoping to read more of them this year. Next on the 5-star list is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. A suspense novel from the award-winning author of The Haunting of Maddie Clare, Vermont, 1950. There's a place for girls whom no one wants. The troublemakers, the illegitimate, the too smart for their own good. It's called Idlewild Hall. And in the small town where it's located, there are rumors that the boarding school is haunted. 4 roommates bond over their whispered fears, their budding friendship blossoming, until one of them mysteriously disappears. Vermont, 2014. As much as she's tried, journalist Fiona Sheridan can't stop revisiting the events surrounding her older sister's death. 20 years ago, her body was found lying in the overgrown fields near the ruins of Idlewild Hall. And though her sister's boyfriend was tried and convicted of the murder, Fiona can't shake the suspicion that something was never right about the case. When Fiona discovers that Idlewild Hall is being restored by an anonymous benefactor, she decides to write a story about it, but a shocking discovery during the renovations will link the loss of her sister to secrets that were meant to stay hidden in the past, and a voice that won't be silenced. This book has mysterious deaths, murders, and history, as well as some surprises and twists. I enjoyed it. It was a good mystery suspense and took place in New England, which made it that much more enjoyable for me, and I would definitely recommend. All right, we have made it to the final book of 2021, and if you've stuck with me for this entire video, I appreciate you, and you must be a fellow bookworm like me. But the final one that I rated 5 stars was from Ruth Ware, and it's One by One, which I don't believe is a newer one. I don't know the order of her books, but this is one that I hadn't read before. I've enjoyed everything I've read from Ruth Ware. I thought maybe this one would be similar to other books I read, and while some of it was a little predictable, it still held my interest and I didn't want to stop reading. I really enjoyed it. It's a good suspense mystery if that's what you are looking for. Getting snowed in at a beautiful rustic mountain chalet doesn't sound like the worst problem in the world, especially when there's a breathtaking vista, a cozy fire, and company to keep you warm. But what happens when that company is 8 of your coworkers and you can't trust any of them? When an off-site company retreat meant to promote mindfulness and collaboration goes utterly wrong when an avalanche hits, the corporate food chain becomes irrelevant and survival trumps togetherness. Come Monday morning, how many members short will the team be? So there you have it. Those are the books that I read for the second half of 2021 and where they ranked as far as 3, 4, and 5 stars. I hope that you enjoy seeing these book videos that I do twice a year. I enjoy sharing them with you. I love reading and wish I could read even more books than I do. It's just fitting it in amongst all the other things. But I do really enjoy reading. I find it to be a great escape. You might notice a pattern of the types of books I like to read. And I also feel like I'm an easy person to please because I've looked at other book videos and people seem, maybe they just read a lot more than me, but they seem more critical, and I seem to enjoy most things that I read. Granted, I didn't share with you the few 2-star those, but it's very rare that I rate books 2 or 1 stars. It's typically 3, 4, or 5. So I feel like I'm easy to please when it comes to the books I read. Maybe that's because I'm choosing things I think I'll enjoy. Who knows? But I would love to know your book recommendations down in the comments. Let me know what some of your 5-star or favorite books from the past year were, because I'm always looking for new recommendations and always looking to add to my to-be-read list, even though it's going to take me forever. Although, do you ever really want to get to the end of it? Because you always want to have something to read. But it's just a matter of me deciding which one to read next. But getting them from the library sometimes helps with that because I have to just get what's available. But yes, I would love to hear your recommendations in the comments. I'm open to reading other genres. I don't love if they get too graphic or horror, but just let me know your recommendations and I'll look into them. And again, thank you for watching. I know this can be a longer video, but I hope that you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, then make sure that you do that so you can see all of the videos that I share with you in 2022. That way it will notify you every time that I upload. And I hope that your new year is off to a great start. I don't know when this will post, but it's still a new year. We're hopefully not that far into it. And I thank you for watching my videos and supporting my channel. It really does mean a lot to me. It's hard to believe that I've been doing this for, I think, nearly 5 years. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's been nearly 5 years, which is hard to believe, but I'm still enjoying it, still loving making these videos for you. It means a lot that you enjoy watching them. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!